think I was 11 years old when we moved to Antro. 11 or 12. And we must have been in there about 9 years in that cross-tie house.
Really?
Yeah, because I was in grade school.
Well, where did you live after the cross-tie house?
Then we moved to Arizona.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
You went to high school there.
All through high school.
Oh, okay.
See, in other words, I was 20 when I graduated from high school. I think I was 20, or about 20. And in Texas, I didn't have any school, so I was 8 years old before I ever got started school when we moved to Dora. And then I think we were
Was that because there wasn't a school, or?
Well, there just wasn't one close enough, I guess. You know, and they didn't have school buses, and they did have it at Dora. And
why did they move to New Mexico? Do you know?
Well, they sold. Grandmother and Granddaddy had a place at Pride, and they sold or traded it, I think, for a section of ground up at Dora, which is probably better farming ground. And then
is that where she lived when?
So
there at Dora, is that the same property where she lived on that little house there?
No, no. The house that she lived at that you don't remember was over southwest of Dora, 3 or 4 or 5 miles. A section of ground over there. And then they gave Dad a quarter of a section, and he farmed that, and he was we were leasing a house in another place, and he broke ground on that and raised some fabulous grains, and then of course during the Depression, and he didn't. I think he got 10 cents a bushel for high gear and some of the grain that he raised, and then he just all of a sudden he decided he wanted to. He was always going off with some guys looking for over there, you know, here and there, for new country, you know, like the rest of us.
It was in your blood, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Here comes a guy.
And
up your back door here.
No, that's Bob. He's the guy that's got the horses.
Oh.
I just graduated in '39 from high school, and we were in the process right then, you might say, of moving to Arizona. And so that we must have moved out to, we must have moved out there if we were there in 30 or 31. Would that be right? Let's see. See, I'd be 11 years old then.
Oh.
Right? In other words, I was born in 1919, and then in 30 I would be 11 years old. So we could have moved to Ancho in maybe 31, and then 39. That'd be 8 years that we lived there in Antro, 8 or 9 or so.
Now, did you build that house, or was it already?
No, there was nothing there.
So you guys just built it? Huh?
Well, Dad did. He had a team of horses that he traded for the lumber that we used, and he got the windows and doors and things somewhere. I don't know how he managed to get those, and then the cross ties. Most of the cross ties, we had a flood across through there, washed the railroads out, and all that was later. I guess he just rounded up the cross ties, a lot of them. But anyway, there was cross ties all across our meadows. It just about ruined our meadows. the grass.
Huh.
And he was cutting hay off of them before that. And
From
so
the
we had-
railroad, huh?
From the railroad. It washed out at Ancho.
I'll be darned.
And came down across, and there was across at Ancho, took out the bridges, and down at Largo, which is about a mile from that end of the place. The homestead was 2 miles long and a half mile wide, and so it was, you know.
Yeah, long, skinny rectangle, wasn't it? She said, the lady that's writing this book said she found that where that house was. She said one day she just came up there and she saw it. She hadn't seen it before.
You want anything to drink?
No, I'm okay.
What I asked you. Are you okay?
It's
We
fine.
have water and beer and.
It's not
food.
very hot, is it?
It's fine. It's good.
The chicken's better than the lasagna, I think.
The lady that you're talking about is Sally.
She called herself Sarah.
Sarah? You sure?
No, I'll have to call you. I'll go home and look and see what it says. I think it was Sarah, though. But Sarah could be short for Sally, couldn't it? I mean, long for Sally.
No. How old is she?
I don't know. She said she was at Lavona's 91st birthday here the other day. And I said, well, I must have seen you in Ted's movie. And she said, no, we came after that, so I don't know who she was. She knew the lady, Mom's Betty, the one that Mom was always talking about. I can't remember what her name was. She said that she had been there, and
Her friend?
she still lives there. Mom's best friend there in high school. What was her name? I can't think of her name. It's in her book there. Whatever. Anyway.
Well, it's one of the Digner girls.
Starts with a, isn't it an M? Oh, well. Never mind. It doesn't matter. Anyway, that woman is down there anyway, and had read Mom's book too.
Well, of course, she had a lot of friends, but
Yeah, I can't think of that woman's name. So when after you guys moved, did you just come back to visit with Joe and that? Because Mom didn't graduate from high school till what, 4 years later?
I don't think
I didn't
it was
realize you were gone that whole time.
Well, I was 22 when we got married, so it couldn't have been 4 years.
Okay. So did you come back to visit them or something from Arizona?
Oh, all the time.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
you
I
just
did.
drove a car or something.
Back and forth. You know, it isn't that far. It's 100 and...
This was McNary. Is that where they were at?
Well, no, McNary was later on.
Oh, where were
This
they at
was at
then?
St. John's.
Oh,
Wasn't too far across the
okay. I
line.
have heard that name. Yeah, I have heard that name. Yeah.
Of course, I went to, they moved on a, how they got into this going to Arizona basically was, Dad were good friends to the Claytons, and they had a nice ranch there at Enfield. And then he worked for them as well as our own place and so on, helped them with the cattle and so on. It was, and then they had a friend that one of the Claytons that Buck had, the oldest son's name was Buck, and he had gone to school with this fellow, college. He was a chemist out of Cleveland, Ohio. So Bob Lux came out to visit, and he had lung trouble. Maybe
so he
TB. Yeah,
for the air.
Yeah. So he came out to New Mexico and visited with the Claytons, and he had some money. His father, they were in the chemical business, and so he had money and he wanted to buy a ranch. So the Claytons got, and he needed somebody to run it because he didn't know a cow from a fence post. So he got Dad to go with him out to Arizona to look around for a ranch, and they found this ranch at St. John's, and so that's how we got started towards Arizona. So he was going out there to run this ranch for him, which was probably halfway between Springable and St. John's, out in kind of the boonies there, the deserts, almost like the painted desert country. It was very interesting country, but really not a ranching country. There was some water on it, there springs and so on, so there was alfalfa field there and so on. So, but it was a pretty poor ranch. But anyway, they were there maybe a year, and Bob Lux was so hard to work for, being a Easterner and having TB or whatever he had, and not healthy at all. And so Dad got another job running another ranch. He didn't stay there very long. He got up and moved out. And so that was just another one of his moves that he made. And he went to work for this Long H cattle company. And he worked for two different cattle companies there. And he didn't work for one of them real long. And this was up in the Zuni country.
Oh, really?
But then he moved from this one up to, or maybe it was just the one. No, he worked for two different outfits there during the years that they were out there before he went to McNairy. And this was about 2.5 townships, this ranch, and they had brought Old Mexico steers in from Old Mexico, and there was, I don't know, 500 or 1,000 of these steers on this place.
Those with the real long horns?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he had a bunch of Phil Jarvis's brothers and the cowboys and Mormon boys and so on, that he was having them helping him run this ranch for this. He was a California oil man. He had interest in oil wells, and so he bought this ground just as and he and his wife moved in to one of the old houses there. He didn't stay there too long either. This oil man didn't know cattle, and it was hard work. So then he moved to the other ranch, and he was there for a year or two. And this is where they were when your mom and I got married. And I was working in the mines at Silver City, New Mexico. And so we went to see them while I was recuperating from a hernia operation. And then I went back and went to work back in the mine for a while, and we lived in the canyon at Bayard in an old house. And then I quit that job and went to work in the mills at Hurley, in the copper mills in Santa Rita. There's open pit mining, one of the bigger open pits at that time. There's a bigger one in Arizona, but this was a huge pit, and then they were milling it. And then I was there for maybe a year, and the war started, and I went to El Paso, and went to work as a carpenter on the defense with building barracks and so on for the preparing for war. So I got a little bit better wages and was out in the open, not in the mines and mills and so on.
Sure, yeah.
And that's how.
Oh, so that's how you got into carpentry?
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't know they said, well, the first thing you need is a hammer and a pair of carpenter overalls. So I went to Penny's and came out with a pair of painter's overalls because they didn't have any carpenter overalls. So I bought the painter's overalls, really not knowing too much whether they were painters or whatever. and went out to the job, and they said, "What the hell are you doing with these painters?" Well, you can't buy I couldn't find any carpenters. Oh, wow, okay. So it didn't take me long to get something anyway. And so it was pretty hard to, the painters had a white,
the bib or something? Or
yeah.
Huh.
Turn that thing off and let me finish lunch. Dad ran into Ferris Gresham when he went to Ancho. And Ferris had lost his wife and he had 2 little girls. And so he was almost an outlaw. Mm-hmm. And in fact, he was kind of friends to some of the outlaws, Fatty Cobb, but so was Joe and Mr. Drake too. They all liked Fatty Cobb very well, but Fatty Cobb finally was killed by the sheriffs. He was stealing cars and things like that. Mm-hmm. In fact, the motor meter that Doug has,
the old school
radiator, I think came off an old Hudson, that he got this old Hudson from Fatty Cobb, and it sat out by his shop out there, and finally just watered away until the war started, and then all the iron they hauled it off. Mm-hmm. But that old car would have been, or someone had put it in a barn and kept it until whenever.
Yeah.
Would have been like equal to the brass car that Doug had.
Is that right?
So
how did the motor meter get on the school bus then?
I'm not sure it came off the school bus.
Oh.
I don't know where it came from.
All this time, I thought it was off the school bus.
Well, it could be, but the school bus was a Chevrolet. It was a little 4-cylinder Chevy, a 28 or 29, and I don't think it had a motor meter on it.
Really? No. Oh, well, I see. Here I've had the wrong story going.
Well, so Dad, he sells the quarter section. He was so disheartened with his farming. Of course, he really wasn't a farmer, Yeah. But that he goes out there, and when he met Ferris, Ferris says, "Oh, it's like, well, you have to move out here. This is the greatest country in the world." And his background grass is this tall and waving, and you can imagine Dad, and there's hardly anybody there in that country. But so and Ferris had a section, I think. Well, you can move in here, Hugh, and just do with this place whatever you want, and that's kind of what he did for a year or so.
Sounds good, huh?
Yeah, and then it was raining at Ancho in those days, so you could raise good crops. Well, the Drakes made a good living with farming, with, pretty good. Is Molly in?
I don't know.
I think she is. I don't think she went out. I remember her grandmother crying and saying that he was moving out there with that bunch of outlaws. What a kind of walk.
Yeah, sounds like it. So what did Fatty Cobb,
Well, he was just, there was, Ancho had been just like any other country, but it's way out in the wilds, There was, why they call Jack Pete what they call him. Blackjack Ketchum had, it was rumored that he might have his hideout up on the peak there, and he'd rob the stages that came through from Louisville to Santa Fe.
Oh, I didn't remember that. Oh. I mean, I knew there was some treasure hid on it, but I didn't know what.
Nobody ever found the treasure either.
So Fatty Cobb was a robber of some sort?
He was just kind of, he wasn't a robber. He was just everybody liked him. But he just, to make a living, you just did whatever you could do in those days. You didn't.
Something illegal, apparently.
Well, sometimes, if there wasn't a job to be had, why, they'd just go out and steal a car or whatever,
Oh.
or a cow.
Oh. You could get
Some of the
hung.
bigger ranches there got started from being rustlers.
Really?
Well, sure.
Mm.
And it's like when you go to Lawrence Lake down there in the Edwards family, the Edwards family got that lake, or most of it, back in the days when they bootlegged. The old man Edwards was a bootlegger and he had money.
I'll
So
be
he
darned.
bought up the lake.
I'll be darned.
That's the way it was.
Jeez.
Anyway, it still is. Now, what they do is, the outlaws, they go into politics.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them.
Yeah, they're our leaders.
Hmm?
They're our leaders now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The people we're
How
supposed
about,
to look up to.
what's his Brown? What was his name?
Oh, Wendell Brown.
Wendell. Good old Wendell. What a jerk.
And can you believe he got off?
Yeah, I can.
Ah.
Anyway, when we were on this friend that he met at Ancho, the Ferris Grayson, and he was a kind of a distant cousin to the Drakes too. Maybe that's how the Fatty Cobb thing came into it. See, Ferris and Fatty Cobb were good friends, and being a kind of a cousin to Ola, Grandma Drake, why, that's probably how they got acquainted. But we were living in the cross-tie house on Ferris's place with a dirt floor, and Dad had built a little, like a root cellar in the back. Anyway, there was one there, and you go down into it, and it had cross-ties part way up and covered with dirt and so on. And we were playing around in this thing, and this neighbor had that lived down about 2 miles from us, or more than a mile, had a little grocery store in their house, little odds and ends and things. And he had a son that was epileptic, and he was a cripple. And Edwin would walk from that store up to where we were and visit with we kids. And of course, I never did tease him, but a lot of kids would, you know. And he'd maybe fall down and have a fit sometimes. And he walked up one day, and I was between 11 and 12, I suppose, I must have been. And he said, "Oh, yeah, Dad's going to get Alma Knight's place, the section." "Oh, how is he going to do that?" "Well, Alma and his wife they're going to move, and then Dad's going to file on their ground and buy him out so he can have his ground, get his ground." And I ran in and told Dad what, and Dad went up to see Alma. They were living in a half dugout. His young wife and a baby, tiny baby, were living up there on the side of a little hill close to where we built the cross-tie house, in fact about the same area. So Dad went up and talked to Alman about if he was leaving, and yes, his wife was going to leave him if he didn't get out of there and get out of this dugout. So Dad gave him $20, I think, and a little Chevy pickup that we had. It had been a car, and it had been, the top of the car was burned off, and the bottom half was pretty good. So it wasn't very old, but it was just a little, and he'd painted red, and it was kind of cute, like a stripped down pickup, but but no cab or anything, just a windshield. So he gave him his car, his little pickup that he'd made, and $20, I think, and then he filed on the ground, and that's how we got it.
Oh. That was good. You told me.
Well, I just,
Yeah.
you think, well, how is it that these things happen, And we hadn't heard anything from Alman and his wife that they were having trouble. Everybody was having trouble.
Yeah.
But we hadn't heard that he was going to have to leave and do away with his homestead or lose it. And he had probably gone to old man Ferguson because Ferguson had a little bit more little money, you know. He had a section or two and some cows and things, and thinking maybe that he could get more cash out of it. But anyway, Almond loaded his wife and baby in this little car and filled it full of gas and left. He was an uncle too. Almond Knight was a uncle. He had married one of the Straley girls, which is the family that's, I'm sure, that has the Sally has the museum at Ancho. And I'm sure that Sally is, either if this was a different name that called you on the phone, then it might be one of her daughters.
Jackson.
Huh?
Sarah Jackson.
Jackson? Well, I don't know what her name would be. She was about your mom's age. So
Well, this woman was definitely mom's age, or maybe a little older, I don't know.
They call.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I bet you it's Sally.
No, it may be. Yeah.
That's the name that we knew her.
What was her last name?
Silvers.
Oh, that's right.
Sally Silvers.
I remember you saying that. So tell me about, you were a carpenter when you stopped there before, about when you became a carpenter.
Well, we went to Fort, is that Briggs at El Paso?
That sounds right.
I think it's Fort Briggs or...
Or was that in Oklahoma?
No, that was, we went to Fort Lawton.
Oh.
And that was a Navy.
Was?
They were building a Navy base out there.
Oh.
It was Lawton. Wasn't it Lawton or Clinton? Clinton.
Oh, Clinton, yeah, that's the town I was born in.
Yeah, Clinton. Mm-hmm. And I was working. Well, that was probably my second job as a carpenter.
Oh, was it?
In between the job at El Paso.
So you weren't in the Army yet?
Oh,
you
no.
were still just working for the Army?
Yeah, no.
Oh, I never knew that.
Oh, no, I wasn't in the Army until quite a while after, maybe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You see, a lot of this was maybe before the war. No, it was the war had started because the morning that we got word that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, I was working at Hurley in the mill, and these big machines were stirring up this ore and ground up copper, and it would slough off with lots of water. They had evidently deep wells there, and so they had lots of water in this thing, and so we had to talk, unless we were standing up yelling at each other like you. We had to talk by sign language, and I remember the foreman came out that morning, and of course we were expecting any time, and he gave
Oh, really?
and we knew that the Japanese we were going to war. I did.
So his arms are like this, twirled around.
Well,
and then he was like an airplane.
Yeah, and
then what was this? What did this?
The slant eyes.
Oh my gosh!
So I knew that the war had started.
Oh, that is really a memory, isn't it?
And yeah, and then he came around and told us, that, so that was December the 7th of
40, wasn't it? Or no?
Maybe 41, isn't it?
Okay.
When was Don born?
45.
Okay. You were born in
43.
43.
That would have been, see, I was born in January of 43. Where were you, where was this at?
This is it,
This is before you got to Clinton? This is
oh yeah, yeah.
So this is in the... So
This
it's
is
in like,
before I even went to El Paso as a carpenter.
oh, really? Oh.
Mm-hmm. See, this is when the war had started when I quit there, and like in the mines I was making from 56 and a half to 62 or 3 cents an hour.
Jeez.
And then and in the mill at Hurley, the copper mill, I was getting I think 72 or 4 cents an hour. And then when I went to work at Fort at El Paso on the Army base, it was I believe about close to 90 cents an hour. So that was quite a raise.
Yeah, I guess.
And we had a good car and money, and which we hadn't had before. Then when that was kind of over, we seems like we went back up, and we were working there that summer and fall, and then I think I got in with a guy that was laying some hardwood. I think that is at the same time, and I worked with him quite a while in, like, if they were building new schools or something like that where they were laying a lot of hardwood. Well, he and I would lay this hardwood so much per hour. And then we went back to Carrizosa, I believe, and that kind of ran out work or whatever. And we went up, it was in the fall, and Fred needed somebody. He'd lost his helper, and so he wanted us to come up and help him gather the beans, harvest the beans.
So he was a farmer too?
Fred
Dale was a farmer?
Well, they had this ranch up there at Mountain Air, and it was like 12 sections or something like this. And he and John had bought it. John had furnished most of the money because he always saved his. But Fred stayed there, and he and Lolly, and Gleason was born then, I think. And maybe Glenn. Would Glenn be?
Glenn's older than I am.
Yeah. So anyway, we went up to help Fred and Lolly harvest the bean crop that fall. And we pretty well got the beans put away, and they were hauled into Mountain Air, and I was working on like a percentage of the bean crops. And Fred, he was about his normal self, I suppose. He wanted me to. He was digging a cistern, I think, and we were kind of getting filled up with the bean business, and I figured, and him too. I figured that I could just go into the bean where they process these beans anyway in Mountain Air and get my share of what we'd taken in. So we were packing up, and we had a nice Mercury car, 4-door car. So we were packing everything into that, and Fred and Lolly came home, and Fred was trying to get me to fight, and I just ignored him. And
get you to fight?
Oh yeah, he was going to slap me around a little bit because I was leaving. And probably shouldn't, but I might as well just say what I'm thinking.
Yes.
So we went through Mountain Air, and I think I got like $350 for my part of what I'd done there.
Was that fair?
Huh?
Was that fair then?
Yeah, well, $350 is like $3,000 now.
Yeah.
And so we took that, and we ended up in Clinton, Oklahoma, and went to work. That's when we went to Clinton, just traveling around looking.
So you weren't in the Army at all. You were just working.
Up to that time. Then later on, I was on the Clinton job. The superintendent. We were all good buddies. We were all having a good time and on the job. But all of a sudden, the superintendent got fired, and so that meant that we were all out of a job, so we just all split. And when the superintendent left, we left. And which is probably, we'd have been probably laid off anyway. So. But, and then we must have come back to Ancho, and I think during this time is when we bought the 50 acres with the little house. We sold the Mercury, the car, and bought this little house in the 50 acres in Carrizosa. It had a windmill and a shallow well, and so we had that during the war, and I think your mom rented it out. I'm not sure about this, but I think maybe for $20 a month or something, a little house. And then I went to Arizona, where Mom and Dad were at McNary by then. They had left the ranches, and Dad was working for the sheriff's department then. He was a deputy sheriff in Apache County, in the corner of Apache County there, and also Indian police. And so we went there, and we spent a winter in McNary working in the sawmill. I was filing saws. There's a saw filer in this mill. And there was more blacks there than there were whites because of the people that worked in the sawmill. And I couldn't hardly cope with that. The foreman on the saw filing crew was a Greek. And I really didn't care for him, but I liked the guys I was working with. But the Greek, he was okay. He and Dad were buddies, kind of. So I stayed there until and everybody had just that I'd ever known or ever heard of had gone to the war. And so it is so dreary, and your mom we had you and Don then, and no, we didn't have Don. No, we just had you. That's right. Yeah. So for some reason, I decided, well, I was going to go into service. So I kind of volunteered in a way. I wasn't really drafted, but I wasn't. When I quit my job, this job I was deferred because it was important to the war efforts in the sawmill.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of puts you into the
right
joining.
Yeah, and so and from then I went back from there to El Paso again to get my shots, and from there I was shipped out to Mineral Wells, Texas, for my basic training.
Huh.
And
that's where you were born.
Well, not.
Were you born in
Mineral Wells is a total different kind of country than where I was raised or born.
Oh.
That was kind of the not exactly the panhandle, but it's close in to the panhandle of Texas, in that part of the country where I was born. And Mineral Wells is kind of down a little more, you might say, in eastern Texas.
Just go on with your story.
Well, we
don't know what it is.
We moved back into our little place in Carrizosa, and as a service, to get out of the service, we got $90 a month as so much subsistence and so on, and $90 a month training on the job training, and for $90 a month. And also the employer had to pay the same amount. So we were getting $180 a month at Carrizosa and living in our own little house. And so it gave us enough money we bought a gas tank, a propane tank, and put in gas for the heat and so on. And we did some little remodeling on the house, and Joe and Margie went to work. When Joe came home, while he went to work with Fred, he had sent money home with Fred, and Fred, they were going to be partners in the rent. So Joe was helping Fred, and in the meantime, Fred decided he put in a butcher shop or a meat cutting plant in Mountain View. And so they were working there and with Fred and so on. And
Joe and Margie were?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you want to hear the whole story?
Yeah, I want to hear the whole thing.
Well, what if Lolly heard
Well, we won't let her.
Okay. So anyway, they're working up there, and Joe, all of his savings that he made as a pilot during the years he was flying fifth missions and so on, he had put several $1,000s into this adventure. But one day, Margie was there by herself, I guess, and Fred, he comes in and he's kind of doing his thing with her, trying to, and he comes in and Margie was kind of feisty, you know, full of life and so on. And Fred says, I'll just screw your ass off if I had a chance. And she slapped him or something and said, you son of a bitch, you touched me. And that was the end of that adventure. Joe and Margie came to, no, I shouldn't have told it that way.
No,
But that's the way it was.
yeah, well, he'd done something to Mom before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't tell that part either. That's one reason we left Mountain there and we went to Flint.
I knew that.
So they came and they went to work at Caragosa in running the country club there for the country club. And then maybe a year after that, Lynn was now 4 years old. This when the plane crashed and killed Joe and burned Lynn and so on. And that's when we left and moved.
Because of that?
Yeah.
That why you guys left?
Yeah. I mean, we just
couldn't live there.
No, we couldn't live there, and I always hated it anyway. You know, everything about Caragosa.
Then you found water, they found water or something on that?
We heard that they drilled a deep well there for water from Caragosa. The railroad quit using pumping to bring the water down from Bonita down, and which is salt water, you know. Snow water and so on. And so they had to have water, so when they put the diesels on, they didn't need all the water. See? So that left Caragosa without water from the railroad. They got an artesian well somewhere on this 50 acres. There was some springs right back of our house in this canyon. There was some water running through there, and so this evidently they drilled in there somewhere. It might have not, I don't know, but I heard that that's where they drilled it on this 50
So
acres.
you'd have been rich if
Well,
been a part of that.
not in Caragosa. We wouldn't have been rich enough. If you sold the city the whole water thing, well, you wouldn't be rich enough to stay there.
Yeah.
So this is when you went into the Army in Mineral Wells here?
Mm-hmm.
And then Ancho, you must have come back and stayed with Mama and Papa then?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's
right.
Roswell? When did you do? Or is that just where she went? That was when I was 4 years old.
Well, they moved to Roswell.
Oh, and Papa did when they got that place.
They were living in Roswell when Joe was killed.
Oh.
What?
But then you were living in Caragosa then.
Yeah. I don't know about what El Paso. Well, she must have just put that down there because we must have just gone to Roswell and stayed there a while with them or something. We did, you know, sometimes we just stayed with them for a while. When we moved back to Roswell, after El Centro, Imperial, Brawley, El Cajon, that is when we left Kennewick and Pasco, you know, in about 50.
That's when Mike was born.
Yeah, and moved back to Roswell. Then.
What were you working in construction when you went to California?
Yeah.
I remember living in that little trailer.
No.
That was like a camper, wasn't it? Just a tiny
Well, it
little
was,
camper?
I think, 17 feet long, and that included a 3-foot tongue. You know?
Jeez.
Well, when we left Carrizosa, we went to El Paso and bought the trailer, I think, in El Paso. And that is, you know, of course, it's pretty cute
Was.
for trailers.
Was.
And we thought, because we'd never seen one, I guess,
Oh, I see.
before.
Oh, that does make a difference. Now, did you and Mom sleep in the back bedroom? Or did Don and I sleep in the back
I
bedroom?
think, didn't we sleep? You kids slept in the back, and we slept up. We
On the
made
couch or
a bed
something?
down on the couch.
Is that, well,
Yeah.
that's what, because I remember sleeping on that
Yeah.
bed in the back, but I didn't know if that's,
Because I remember your bed used to freeze to the wall in like Pasco and Kennewick.
the blankets is,
The first winter, and
Yeah.
then the second winter it got 29 below, but we were living in Navy homes then. So she got
oh,
her fill of
that's
it
right.
trailer, and she got a place to live in the Navy.
That's right, I'd forgotten about that. How'd you get into Navy home? Because you were,
Probably as a veteran or
Uh-huh.
something. John Lucille came to see us while we were in.
yeah, there's pictures of Sue and I in our parachute nightgown there.
Okay.
I think it's in there. Yeah, I remember Dawn and I got stuck in the closet in that back bedroom. Remember we played, I don't know if we were playing hide and go seek or what, and crawled down in there, and there was a little sliding doors, and the books got against it, and we couldn't get the door open. We were stuck in there, and well, Mom had gone to the wash clothes or something, and she came back, and we were taking turns breathing through the little crack in the. She said we were all sweaty and just about.
Oh yeah, I
ready to-
do remember that kind of, yeah.
I remember it well. Did it have like a gas pilot light or something on the stove?
Oh, I imagine. Mm-hmm.
Because I remember thinking that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was there one Christmas because I could see this little red light burning. What are you reading?
Well, I just really it seemed like it was kind of a miserable world there.
Did it?
Yeah, and you know,
So
traveling
hard.
around, no stable place to live, just living here and there, and when did she write this stuff? She must have written it right after it happened.
I would think so. I don't know.
Either that or she had some other notes. We took her at 2 weeks, at 3 weeks, and at 6 weeks to Dr. Cunningham for checkups. At 3 months, we took her to Dr. Cunningham in Clinton, Oklahoma. Was there 2 Dr. Cunninghams or what?
Didn't make any sense to me. I don't know.
At 3 months, we took her to Dr. Cunningham in Clinton, Oklahoma. Well, no, we were there 3 months, I think, or more. We were there more than 3 months, I'm sure. Dr. Larry in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and to Dr. Disterhoff in McNairy. We only had one doctor in McNairy for throat trouble. She had summer complaints when 5 months old, and we took her to Dr. Craig in El Paso, Texas. So we were back at El Paso, or Alamogordo. At 10 and 1/2 months, she had a form of pneumonia. We had Dr. Belden of Corona several times.
I sure got around a lot.
So she, at 10 and 1/2 months, Dawn wasn't born.
No.
Well,
No.
well, Reed said that Dawn was just,
On his lips.
huh?
Was he on his lips?
Well, he was worn out.
Oh.
I think that Dawn is going to kill himself.
Mm.
Lucella cut her first teeth when she was 10 months old.
Do you remember calling me back?
Huh?
Do you remember calling me that?
No, not really.
I can't imagine how you could call me that for almost a year and then change it over to something else.
No, I don't know. She was like Mama. She'd do things that would. Well, where'd she come up with that?
Yeah, she just thought it up. I know.
Yeah, it's like, oh well, I'll put her down and do Stella this time.
Next time I'm somebody else.
Yeah.
I was watching an old English movie the other day where the lady got off the stagecoach and they said, "Oh, hello, Drusilla," and I about fell out of my chair.
Drusilla, have you read this lately?
Yeah.
Ever?
Yeah.
Oh. Like she's very active. She insists on sitting on her high chair backward. Her daddy made her a bigger bed to sleep in when she was 8 months old. Cares less than New Mexico.
Do you remember that?
No. 11 months during this time we were living in McNairy.
Did you guys have your own house or were you with grandmother and grandmother?
Yes. No, we had our own house.
Oh, you did?
It was a company town. You had your own house and you buy everything at the company store and you, when you got through, you didn't have any money left for the end of the month. That is one, you know.
You sold to the company store, is what Ernie said, huh? Good grief.
And you heated with wood and you had to go over and get the pieces of wood, you know, from the thing. The pieces of wood that's chopped out and they charge you for the wood.
I remember that being a really neat town.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the wood sidewalks, just like an old western.
Yeah, everything is wood.
Yeah, Sharon said that they completely obliterated that town. The Indians got the land back and there's nothing left.
No kidding.
Just took every building, everything is gone. It's back to natural, back to just the land.
Is that right?
Yeah, she just went down to see Tom, you know.
When?
Just a few weeks ago. It was the first time she'd seen him since she was a little kid. You know,
well, he's still living there.
He's still living in Texas, yeah. And she should call Sharon and talk to her. She had a really nice visit. I guess she really liked his whole family, and she liked him. Isn't that something? And I guess just a few years ago he stopped being an alcoholic. But he told her that he begged LaRue to come back to him 2 or 3 times.
I think he did probably, but
wasn't a good deal, huh? Yeah, I can remember McNairy going into there with the snow on the trees. We must have been older when we went back there because we were in that Studebaker, driving through
yeah, well, that was after we bought the Studebaker in San Diego, and we went up the coast, and then we were in Eastern Washington for 2 years. See? And so when we went back to Roswell, they were living, of course, in Roswell then. So the car was basically new. It was a used car, but it's still a nice little car.
Oh, was it?
The first time we went back.
I remember the snow hanging on those trees and the thick, beautiful, you know, and the moonlight coming in on the snow and driving into McNairy, and wow, it was like winter wonderland. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Here she got Drusilla Gayle, and over here she got Drusilla's First Christmas Was White. And this was in McNairy.
I remember this must have been that same time after coming back from California, because I remember going up there on those hills where the Indians had attacked the soldiers and we found all the arrowheads. Remember that? And there was kind of a pit dug out where
Wasn't that up in McNair? Mount Mayor up in
was that where that was?
Country? I think so.
Oh, I thought that was McNair. Okay.
I think that would have been.
Where you found all the arrowheads and the little beads and the soldiers' uniforms.
That is McNairy. Yeah, that is McNairy. We still got some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Mike does, I guess.
Yeah.
That is where they found the. Okay. when we pulled in there that day, that's the day that Dad had a report that somebody came in and said they'd found some dead men.
Oh, really?
Kids.
Oh, really?
And so, well, what do you mean dead men? No, it's just some bones. The kids came in and we said something. He went out there, but there's just some bones. And it is where a bunch of soldiers had been caught on the edge of Black River on this cliff.
Mm.
And sure enough, it was.
During the Civil War or during
No,
the Indian
during
Wars?
the Indian Wars. See, the Apache Wars.
Oh.
And in their foxholes, they'd laid up rocks to get behind to shield.
I remember that.
Remember? And we took a wire screen
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
we screened up
sifted.
the
Yeah.
dirt, sifted it. And
Yeah.
we worked there till dark that night.
That's right.
And there's a bunch of buckles and beads, and of course the stuff has gotten little dribbles and scattered here and there, and so there isn't too many. But there was a spoon and belt buckles and stuff that they evidently. I don't think they'd starved to death. I think they'd killed them right in the holes because the way the bones were scattered was kind of, there was no skull. It was just pieces of bones. So, but,
So they didn't know about that before?
well, they didn't have any record of it.
Oh.
They must have sent a patrol out from Fort Apache, and it never returned, and they never knew
Where they
went
died
to.
or what
And
happened.
this was like, we're kind of guessing, but I'd say no more than 10 miles from Fort Apache.
Is that right?
Mhm.
But that's a big area.
Yeah, you know. But you thought,
That somebody would have found them
Yeah.
all that time.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Huh.
And they might have,
Yeah.
you know, they might
So
have.
how many years later do you think this had been? Like,
Well, the Apache Wars ended in about 1887 or something, before the 1900s. You know, like 15 or 20 years before 1900. Well, they didn't. In other words, Geronimo, they got rid of Geronimo and his renegades. Well, I think it is in the late 80s, 1880s, maybe 90 or so.
so that had been like the 50s or so, 1950s, somewhere.
That was,
Late 40s.
I would think that was probably, yeah, in the 50s. When we were back there. Because we left Roswell, we left you kids in the car there, and we took a bus back out here to pick up the old pickup in the little trailer. Yeah, we towed the trailer back and we sold it down there. The old pickup, the front bearings and so on was so bad.
Why did you bring that back?
I don't know, because there wasn't probably any. Well, we had it full of our household goods and what we had accumulated.
Wasn't that just a reminder, you know, of Joe? I mean, there it sat in our backyard all those years.
The trailer?
The whole pickup.
Oh, well, we fixed it up, and it was a pretty good pickup. In fact, it wasn't too bad. Well, oh, wait. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I remember it sitting in our backyard with the window, like when it had been burned from the plane
That is,
in Roswell.
that is after, see, it was a good pickup. We pulled the trailer out to Washington, and did we bring the trailer back, though, to Roswell? Maybe we didn't. Maybe we sold it up over there or something. I can't remember what we did with that trailer. I wasn't too fond of that trailer after a while. But I know the old pickup, you know, and then we must have had the bolts, what do they call them, the front end redone, and we had it worked over. Well, going to California, from California, when we got to Eureka, the transmission went out. It stuck in second gear, and we were pulling the trailer then, and we had to have it overhauled, and we took it into a Ford outfit in, I think it was Eureka, and they kept was there for about 2 or 3 days working on it, and I said, just put in a remodel bill. No, we can't do that. So they worked on it and put all new parts in it, and of course the transmission was like a new one.
Oh.
So the engine was good.
Oh, I see.
And so it was, and so then we ended up back with it at Carrizosa. We get the front end, the ball joints and so on were redone, so that the old pickup, and it's the bad coming back that you got to where if you turn it too far, the wheels would flip over and it'd go this way. It's a wonder we even made it back. But we had it fixed, and of course we were living, as you know, at Carrizosa again. Yeah. Of course, that's why Joe was down there. They didn't have a car.
Oh,
It was so near after the war that Joe had a Ford ordered, a Ford V8, and then whenever Fred and them split up the partnership, and Fred, I think, finally got Joe paid off.
That wasn't Joe and Margie bought the country club?
Well, that's when they started working at the country.
Oh, they didn't own it?
Oh, no. There wasn't, you couldn't own it. The doctor, what's his name, and the people in Carrizosa owned it.
Oh.
It was a country club. See,
Yeah, well, like a community club?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, but that's, Joe had borrowed it, and I think we had another car. Seems like we had bought that old Buick.
You mean that new Buick?
Well, it was a 42. It is pretty sorry, but we bought it for, I think, $1,500 somewhere, and it came out, found out, and the engine was full of dirt and mud, and so we put a new engine in that. That is $500. Just take the old one out. It is totally worn out.
Jeez, that was a lot of money.
It came out of Clovis, and it didn't have any oil filters or anything. In those days, the 42 is pretty well, before it started, so they just.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a fancy old Buick, big as a house. Seems
like.
And so Cliff, what's his name, put a new engine in it. Just set the old one out and set a brand new one in it, the whole thing. And we were had that, and then Joe was borrowing the old pickup. And that's what he was in, he and Glenn.
And he went to get gas.
Yeah. And then, that is in 47, see. That is before we came back from down up here and went back then.
Yeah.
See. In other words, we took the old pickup back with us, and then the transmission was still good in it, but the front end was worn out. So it still ran good. I remember we got in this bus and went up through Wyoming, and the heater was broke on the bus.
Oh my goodness.
Well, why are we traveling without it? Because there's no other bus there. So we traveled on this stupid bus all the way up there in freezing cold, got our stuff and came back.
So you came back to Roswell and got on working at that big housing project there, huh?
Yeah.
And bought one of those, was that one of the first houses there on Ohio Street?
Yeah, some of the first ones. Then we bought that lot, over by the airport on Montana Street.
The Montana Street.
Yeah.
Did you design that yourself?
Yeah, we did pretty well. Well, I can't remember whether we had a picture to go by or not, but we must have. But I'm not sure.
Then you built some more after that. Did you build them right around there, didn't you? Before we moved up here, didn't you build them?
Well, I built,
house,
3 or 4 spec houses down there around where the Chia lived, do you remember?
I remember the Chia, but I don't know where that was. I didn't know you built it.
They were just, we built one little, like a Spanish house, nothing adobe look, next door to it.
That's the one I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember we had to pick up all the sticks in the yard before we could go to Yellowstone
Oh,
to
is
meet
that
the
right?
Bowers. Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to go out and pick up all the little scraps
Clean
before
up.
we could leave.
I don't remember that.
No. It would be on your list.
Well, there's the old brick right there.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
Mhm.
I do kind of remember that
Yeah.
now that I see a picture of it.
That's you and Ronnie?
That's what it said on the back.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where we were at.
McNary.
Was that McNary?
I can tell by the houses.
Let me write it on the back.
I'm pretty sure.
I've been 1943 sometime.
I'm pretty sure that's McNary.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Sharon said that some of those people down there told her that they just flattened it down to nothing. That she and Ed had planned on going to McNary because she wanted to go back and see it.
Uh-huh.
And said, there's nothing there. There's nothing to see.
Well, I've been thinking, well, I'd like to go back to McNary sometime. Well, I'm glad I didn't
Yeah,
do that.
no kidding.
So the Indians got rid of it.
Yeah. Put it back the way the Indians had it.
And maybe they just used it up, just burned it to firewood. That's getting pretty well used.
Yeah, it's pretty old. It's just like me.
No wonder you've been married 36 years.
God. Don't keep reminding me.
I've got a box full of pictures out in the shed there. You know,
really?
the family pictures.
Oh,
I haven't ever looked at them.
you don't want to look at them? Okay. Well, if you don't want to look at them,